It's Monday, the 2nd of March, 2026. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Before we do that, a reminder to hit follow on the podcast, the playlist that you might be listening to through Spotify, the Your Daily Drive playlist is disappearing very soon. Hit follow on the podcast so you can continue to listen to us.
Please hit follow.
Indeed. All right, moving on to story number 1, Sean. Hundreds of Australian travellers are stranded and equity markets are set for a rocky start to the week following the assassination of Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei by US and Israeli forces over the weekend. The attack on Iran and the death of Khamenei, as well as the Armed Forces Chief of Staff and the Defense Minister, came at the order of US President Donald Trump, who said that he was taking the action because of imminent threats posed by the regime. Iran responded by attacking Israel, Doha and Dubai, which are countries and areas considered relatively safe, certainly for that part of the world, at least. And Iran warned that there would be further bombings in the region. US President Donald Trump said that if that went ahead, Iran would be hit with a force never seen before. He called on Iranian people to rise up and for government forces to surrender.
Yeah, global reaction was swift and generally supportive of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, the president of Israel, while almost no countries actually criticising the strikes. Many European countries, United Nations, just calling for a negotiated solution. One exception to that, Russia, one of Iran's few allies, it condemned the strikes. Our own Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said he was deeply concerned about the regional escalation, but certainly didn't talk against it. In fact, he almost talked for it. There have been demonstrations around the world, including Sydney and Melbourne, celebrating Khamenei's death, though the vacuum at the top of government means we're not quite sure what's going to go on.
For travellers, Sean, to or through the region, what's it mean?
Look, cancelled flights, thousands of cancelled flights, hundreds of stranded Australian passengers either in that region or on one side of it. Now, Virgin Australia had several flights that took off and turned around. So if you think of Emirates, Etihad, Qatar, they all fly that region. They are certainly all sorts of cancellations and problems with their flights. Take note, travel insurance generally doesn't include acts of war. So just be careful with this. Speak to your travel agent or to your carrier.
Yeah, indeed. Story number 2, Sean, follows on from that. What does it mean for financial markets? Because presumably there'll be a flight to safety, which should be good for gold, and defence and energy stocks should also benefit.
Yeah, so with the Middle East on the brink of all-out war, oil, gas, energy prices generally certain to rise. In fact, probably the most immediate impact on people like you and I, assuming we haven't got loved ones in the region, is higher petrol prices. The asset class that traded over the weekend after the bombs were launched was Bitcoin. Now, it fell, but only 4%. That's not much. That suggests traders think this could be a short conflict. Let's hope so. The Aussie dollar is also likely to fall against the greenback.
Story number 3, Sean. House prices have flatlined in Sydney and Melbourne, while Perth just appears to keep on surging ahead of likely interest rate hikes, more hikes expected later in the year. For the month of February, house prices in Sydney and Melbourne were flat, and both have gone backwards over the past 3 months. It does look like rate hikes are starting to bite in those cities, and in Sydney, at least, affordability is certainly becoming an issue.
Yeah, it sure is. Compare that to Perth, where prices are up nearly 7% for the quarter, an incredible 22% for the last year. That's all about supply and demand. There is no supply. Well, there is supply in Perth, but it's about 50% what the long-term average is. That's pushing up prices. Brisbane and Adelaide also running pretty hot, rising 4 to 5% over the past 3 months, according to figures from Cotality. Median value of a home in Sydney, now just under $1.3 million. That's a lot of money. Brizzy, $1.1 million. Perth, almost at $1 million, followed by Adelaide, Canberra and Melbourne. Interestingly, over the last quarter, the combined regions did better than the capitals.
That's incredible. Story number 4, Anthony Albanese has copped a hit to his personal popularity amid deteriorating economic and security conditions, as Angus Taylor really stems the coalition's electoral bleeding and One Nation's rise takes a little bit of a breather. The latest figures from the news poll conducted for The Australian show Taylor in a stronger position than Susan Lee, who he, of course, replaced as opposition leader last month. Labor's primary vote dropped to 32%. That's down from 37% in early October. One Nation's primary vote still sits at 27%, while the coalition is at 20%.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese recorded his worst personal performance result since last year's election. 45% of respondents said he'd make the better PM compared to 37% for Taylor. The plattering of One Nation's votes comes after leader Pauline Hanson was heavily criticised for questioning if there were any good Muslims in Australia. Looks like that party might have peaked, at least in the polls. The pollies are back in Canberra this week.
Last one, story number 5. One of the great corporate battles over the past couple of years, Sean, has been Coles v Woolies, right? They've competed on price and suppliers, customers, and with the corporate regulator as well. It's fair to say that Coles had been winning the battle, but the tide looks to be turning.
Yeah, so basically the last couple of years, Coles has sort of been catching Woolies. Woolies is by far the bigger player. Now, Coles' profit came out last week and its share price got hammered. When Woolies' profit came out last week, its share price went up 9% or something like that. In the first 7 weeks of this quarter, Coles' sales was up 3.7%. Woolies up 5.8%. Woolies is doing more sales online. It just seems like it's turned somewhat and things are looking better for Woolies v Coles.
Yeah, it does feel that way. All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Michael.
It's Monday, the 2nd of March, 2026. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, as we mentioned, very important. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.